What up guys, I'm Jay with Studio Steep with all the best tea and drinks from around the world. Today I'm going to take you through how to choose your new everyday tea. And I'm going to tell you what my recommendation is for the best all around, anytime, anywhere, feel good juice. Alright, let's get to it.
Okay, back from the surf. Face was frozen solid, but I'm alive now. So, 4 considerations when you're choosing your new everyday tea. Number 1 is flavor, guys. Pretty obvious one here, but your tea can't have such a bold flavor that you get tired of it after the 2nd or 3rd cup. But on the other hand of the spectrum, your tea can't be so light that it just starts tasting like water after a while, right? So balance is key here, folks. Very strong or very light, somewhere in the middle. Number 2 is cost. Obviously, everyone cares about this one, but if you're going to be drinking this tea day in, day out, right, that can add up to a lot of money. On this point, I have a few suggestions. The first one is find a good tea supplier that you like. They might not have all of the fancy, blends or packaging, but what they have is really good, decent leaves, and they have a good price for it because they don't have to pay for all those extra shenanigans, right? Another thing you should do is drink tea loose leaf. What I mean by that is not in a tea bag form, right? Because the tea bags and the packaging for those tea bags, all that is extra money that you're just flushing down the toilet. All you need is a teapot. Don't buy anything crazy. Literally, you can just use a pot and a strainer if you're just starting out. Even though I'm drinking a tea bag right now, the added bonus of loose leaf tea is that you can change the amount of leaf. Some people might like a shit ton of leaves in their mug. That's totally fine. You can experiment with it using loose leaf tea. Number 3 is caffeine. I remember when I was working an office job in this, high-rise building, I would show up at these meetings where there's a bunch of staff and everyone has these 20, 30 ounce giant monsters of coffee, milk and sugar and sweeteners. And that's probably when I realized how bad of a caffeine and sugar addiction that a lot of Americans have. So when you're choosing an everyday tea, let's start to think, a little lighter on the caffeine side, right? Unfortunately, that axes a lot of green and black teas off this list of eligible teas, unless they're decaffeinated during the production process. Some of you folks might be transitioning from coffee to tea, and you might read the packaging and be like, oh, it's still got the same 20, 30 milligrams or whatever of caffeine in this one cup. But the way that the body processes caffeine is different from coffee to tea. For coffee, it's a very fast release of caffeine, and once that's used up, you crash very quickly too. For teas, it's a much slower release over time, and you don't experience as much of a crash as you do with coffee. All that said and done, it's best for your everyday tea to not have too much caffeine. Number 4, my favorite one on this list is friends. So I can't tell you how many times that I have a random moment with a friend or a stranger. We have a minute to talk, so I pull out some tea, heat up some water, and we share a nice cup of joe, you know what I mean? And because of that, my everyday tea has to appeal to a pretty wide audience. That means that a lot of very strong flavored teas, unfortunately, crossed off my list. On the other side, if you like complex, expensive teas, that's great. But if you're serving it up to strangers or families or friends who aren't as used to drinking tea as you are, they might not appreciate it as much. They might just be like, where's my beer? Wrapping up the point about friends, just choose a tea that is pretty easily enjoyable by most people, that you think tastes good and is not so niche of a product that you have to have years of tea drinking experience to appreciate it. So guys, you guys are probably wondering by now, what is my recommendation for an everyday green tea? Here it is. I have 2 actually. Cheat. 1 is Houjicha, and number 2 is its very close cousin, Kukicha. And let's go through the reasons why I picked those 2. Number 1 we talked about is flavor, and Houjicha is a roasted tea. So in that process of roasting, there's this earthy, nutty flavor that comes out, and it's really nice. It's like being around a campfire on a really cold night with your friends just chilling. If you compare it to mint teas or pu'er teas, you know, black mango teas, jasmine teas, the flavor is not so bold, so you can keep drinking this over and over and not get too tired of it. And then comes cost. So when Japanese tea farmers are making green tea, you might save the best quality leaves for high-grade sencha, right? But what's left over, the twigs, the branches, and bits of leaves, instead of wasting it, since all that stuff is still really good for you, they slow roast it. What results is a beautiful tea that's balanced in flavor, and it's also really cheap because those farmers sell it at a discount. That's good news for you and me. So caffeine obviously is a big factor, right? Since Houjicha is roasted, that process roasts out and bakes out a lot of the caffeine. And you can actually see this when it's being roasted. Little white flecks are floating up. That's concentrated caffeine. Of course, this guy is a real tea, so it has a little bit of caffeine, but you can drink 2 to 3 cups of this at night. And unless you're super sensitive to caffeine, you'll have no problem heading to bed. Last but most importantly, when I'm serving up Houjicha to family or friends or strangers, it never fails to impress because it's a flavor that most anyone can appreciate. It's also not very caffeinated, so folks sensitive to caffeine can appreciate it too. Especially if it's their first time drinking a tea like this that's roasted, this gentle smile slowly spreads across their face, and it's just a good time all around. That's why this one is definitely my recommendation, and you should carry this around with you everywhere. So where can you get your hands on some Houjicha and Kukicha, right? So when I'm in the US, I always get these leaves from a place called Tao of Tea based in Portland, Oregon. I put a link in the video description. That's gonna take you straight to where you can buy these leaves. I really appreciate you clicking those links since a portion of that comes right back to Studio Steep where we can keep bringing you the best tea and drinks from around the world.
Woo! Fun day today. Okay guys, thanks for checking out this reel for Studio Steep. Next week, I think we're gonna go check out some cafes, some restaurants, and see what this beach town is serving up. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm gonna go take a shower.